Hello, welcome to Quackalope, and today we're going to be teaching you Vast the Mysterious Manor, and today we're teaching you specifically about one of the many characters, the Manor. Vast is an asymmetric game, so there are a lot of different characters that each play differently, and we're doing small videos on every single one of them.
Okay, good.
Along with that, we have a general overview video that covers the base rules of the game. Now, this video, because there's going to be a lot of different things going on in it, will follow a sort of specific format for the purpose of providing you links in the description and the comment section down below. So, if you're looking for specific information or answers to questions, feel free to check out that list and jump around this video to get the answers you're looking for. The format we're going to follow. We're going to start with the overview of the Manor character. Win and loss, kind of how it plays on this board. Then we're going to go through the general setup, the components you should be looking for, how the board is built out. We'll dive into this structured board, the player board here. Every character in Vast has a sequential order of actions that it takes. We'll go over that vaguely. Then we'll take a closer look at the mechanics on that board specifically. So the kind of key terms, the actions, stuff like that. And then finally, we'll take another zoomed out look at the board here, how the Manor might interact with other characters, and some strategy tips and tricks for playing the Manor in a standard game of Vast. So, Jan, if you would start by telling the audience that they should subscribe. If you'll start by diving...
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. I've got to get them in there somewhere. If you'll start by talking a little bit about the Manor, what does the Manor do? What type of character is it when you play it?
Ooh, so the Manor is actually this entire board.
It's the whole board, similar to the cave in classic Vast.
The Manor's objective is to generate enough seals to trap every single being within its shell.
Yeah, so what it's doing is sort of a spatial pattern, like a spatial puzzle game, while everyone else is doing kind of the explore and discovery systems on the game. For instance, the Paladin wants to hunt through the dungeon to try to like attack and kill the spider. The spider wants to try to gain terror to escape the front doors.
Stop.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about
You
it.
just need 14 seals. That's all.
That's what you really should focus on.
Yeah.
The seals themselves are patterns that you need to draw on this board in lit tiles with no obstacles, and they're cards that you will have kind of in hand. As you complete them, you'll be gaining points or seals. Once you gain 14, you've closed the shutters to this Manor, and everyone is trapped inside.
They're your friends forever.
That's the same reason I'm here in this video. Forever. Let's go through the setup of the Manor. The easiest way for us to do that is I will go through this setup card, and you'll demonstrate the items that we're looking for.
Yeah.
First off, if you would please place the Manor board in front of you. Collect all 6 of the portent cubes. Place them near your Manor board. Place the 3 omen cubes in the unassigned omen boxes on your board. Collect the wraith figure. Place the seal cubes on the 0 space of your seals track. Shuffle the 13 ritual cards into a deck and draw 3 ritual cards. At the start of your first turn, place the wraith on any tile with no figures. And that'll be at the start of your first turn. So other characters will actually have already acted and manipulated the board state before you place the wraith down.
Yeah, actually, the Manor is the 4th character in turn order within the game of Vast.
Yeah, and we cover that in the overview video. There are a few traits that are important to kind of have at the forefront of your mind when playing the Manor. These are traits that change the standard general rules that we laid out. First off, ethereal. Your wraith can cross walls, cannot attack or be attacked, ignores the effects of enemy tokens, and does not remove enemy tokens when entering their space. Your wraith is outside of the game state that a lot of other players are playing in. And then second, spooky. Each time you reveal a poltergeist tile, you may place its poltergeist on an empty lit tile. So that means that as you're flipping tiles on this board, if you come across one that would summon a poltergeist, you're able to stick him kind of anywhere else so that he's not in your way. That's sort of the concept there.
I like shenanigans, especially those.
So
Yes.
if you'll start diving through kind of the turn sequence on that board, so we can see a little bit more about how they play.
Yeah, of course. So, the manor is actually divided into 5 phases instead of the usual 4. So those phases are going to be divided into essentially assigning what your actions are going to be for the turn, using what you assigned for the turn by following the order on your board already, performing a ritual, placing treasures, and then collecting all of your action cubes again to the unassigned portion, and then waiting for your turn to do it all over again.
Well, and then the 6th action is reaching over to the chips and dips, and is that not?
Yes, you will always do that. That is my go-to action.
That's standard
And you can do
practice
that in between turns too.
in any game.
Yeah.
So starting at the top here, we have the assign omens to tracks phase.
So very similar to how the Paladin would usually work.
Jan, don't worry about it.
Oh, that's true. So, you're going to have 3 cubes that you're going to be able to assign to any 3 locations on your board. Once you have assigned each of those cubes, first of all, you must always assign cubes to the leftmost space. You can't just go ahead and skip all the way to the end.
And that's because
Don't cheat.
each space kind of scales in power and ability, and we'll touch on this a little bit later in the video, but you'll be going through and buffing those powers by doing things like completing seals. The second thing here is going to deal with those powers specifically. Just for this kind of convenience, we will dive back into those specific powers at the next stage of this video. Right now, what we'll say is those zones where you assigned your powers, you'll then resolve those powers and move on to the 3rd act.
Yeah, so performing a ritual is essentially you choosing one of the 3 cards you may have in your hand and following the pattern that appears there.
And I guess one important note on the area that I just touched on, a lot of those powers will deal with manipulating the board, manipulating tiles, that then allow you to have a open space to perform your rituals. So we manipulate the board, you go down, you try to perform a ritual from the cards in your hand, and then what's the 4th thing that we're going to be doing?
So the 4th thing that you're going to do on your turn is that you're going to place treasures. So very reminiscent of the original Vast, you're always going to populate the board in some capacity, okay? And if you don't have all your rituals in hand, you're going to draw new cards back into that.
And this can also be buffed by getting portent cubes as well, which increase kind of your draw size or the way that you're interacting with the board. It looks like you can get to the point where you're placing multiple treasures or drawing multiple cards.
Yeah, and more of everything is better for you.
Sure. And then the 5th thing here, return omens to unassigned omens space.
So you'll grab all the cubes, purple cubes, that's important, we'll explain why soon, and then you'll place them back on your unassigned slot.
Okay, great. So that's the general turn structure.
Yeah.
Let's go back through and talk a little bit more specifically about how each of these actions or each of these phases work.
Yeah.
Up to the top here, assign omens to tracks. That's pretty straightforward.
Well, it's actually a really big deviation to the original cave.
So how do we get portent cubes and how do they get placed on your board?
So those ritual cards, they're here for 2 main purposes. 2, get you seals, and get you beautiful portents. Depending on
The card you showed doesn't have any portents attached to it. Luckily, the ones I placed down here on the board do.
Look at that. None of these have portents.
I was one step ahead of him. So what he was letting you know is as you complete some of these cards, and we'll get into how you complete them specifically, but as you complete them, you'll be unlocking portent cubes. These cubes will be placed on your board.
And that's going to depend specifically on what's shown on the card. You'll notice that at the end of every seal, you'll either have a symbol for placing walls, getting new spaces for more cards.
So what you're saying is the one here in front of me that has a wall symbol next to it, if I completed this seal, this portent cube specifically would go down here and buff that.
Yep.
But I don't have enough portent cubes to fill up every single.
That's the first part of this puzzle.
Okay.
You have to make sure what your strategy is before placing down all the spells that you can muster.
Once we have a few portent cubes on our board, or if we don't have any, we're going to be going through and using our powers. So we'll be assigning our omens to the leftmost available spot. Let's go ahead and talk about what each one of these powers do.
So remember, you as the manor, you actually have very important objectives that you must complete, and in order for you to complete those objectives, you have to follow what your rituals cards say. So, Everything on this power board is dedicated to you fulfilling this as soon as you can. We first start off with revealing tiles. Depending on how many cubes you place here, you're going to be able to reveal more tiles. And remember, lit tiles are important because you need lit tiles in order to fulfill your rituals, okay? You can't do it on empty tiles. Next comes shifting a tile. So you'll be able to shift the tile in a specific direction depending on where you want it to end up, right? So that's very important. After that, we have swap tiles. So that'll let you change any 2 tiles on the board to what you actually need it to be. Remember, this is a spatial puzzle, not just for other characters, but you, specifically you. Well, this is your puzzle.
An important note on those tile manipulation, when you are revealing, placing, swapping, you also have the ability to rotate the resulting tile. All of the tokens get carried along with it. Any of the wall tokens or extra wall modifiers like force walls will actually be removed.
Clarify this for me. If I move a tile that has a figure on it, does the figure move also?
The figure does.
Haha.
The figure is going to be carried right along and placed wherever you would like them.
And we'll get to why that's important when we talk about strategies.
So continue going through here. We have the reveal tile, we have the shift tile, we have the swap tiles, and all of those are controlled based on how many portents you have. So they have a number underneath them indicating the distance or kind of manipulation you're able to do.
And the more portents you have, the more you sum to that original action.
Now we have place walls. It's a little different.
So placing walls, these are technically called force walls. So wherever a wall shouldn't be, because right now there's an open space to it, you're able to place that there. And now nobody can get through. It's pretty good.
Yeah, you just sort of develop a wall in their way, impede their path. The reason you might want to do this for yourself is you might not want people in the zone you're currently trying to create so that you can complete a seal. Placing a wall there makes it a little bit more inconvenient for them to step into your ritual space. And one important thing to note, these walls, these beautiful little smiling 3D miniatures, are part of the Haunted Hallways expansion. So we're demonstrating all these games with Haunted Hallways included in. If you're only playing with the core box game, you will be playing with force walls that look a little bit more like this. So they're cardboard tokens. For those of you that have the expansion, all tokens are limited in the game of Vast. So the 3D miniatures do not combine with the force walls available to you. You are limited to 6, period.
Yeah. So let's talk about the final action, which is moving your wraith. So obviously you need to position your wraith tactically around the map. So that final action is going to let you move the wraith depending on the amount of spaces that you have available for it. So very important.
Now, when you move, you're going to be doing so to try to get into position to perform a ritual. So this move action won't be the ritual complete action that you're trying to do. But for instance, if I was positioned right here, and maybe I had an L-shaped ritual that I needed to, pattern out, I could move over to this room, and then when we move to step 3, perform a ritual, I would play that ritual card from my hand and go ahead and complete that pattern on the board. As long as I didn't have any obstacles in my way, I would then complete that seal and possibly gain that portent. And there's one important thing that I'm missing on this seal card. So I have this beautiful empty L-shaped hallway. I can go ahead and play that card from my hand, draw that pattern with my wraith, complete a seal, gain a portent in that specific move zone, and the little symbol of a poltergeist here summons into that designated area. So he will appear right there in that location.
Spooky.
And in essence, that's the puzzle that you're trying to solve. You really want other people around the game to just leave you alone.
Yeah, just get out of here.
Yeah, we want to lock you in forever so we can always be friends, but for now, if you just kind of stay in your side of the board, that'd be convenient.
We need our space, but just temporarily.
Just temporarily.
Then we'll be together forever.
The last thing you're going to come to here is placing treasures and then drawing rituals. Based on where you have your portents, that'll determine how many of those actions you take or what type of actions you take. Is it an additive or is it a...
Oh, it is additive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So depending on how many portents you have there will determine how many of those actions you take. You will always start the game by placing a standard single treasure in any unrevealed zone. You will then gain the ability to draw an extra card, place an extra treasure, and then possibly draw 2 extra cards. I do think it's important, even though it's not important to worry about what the other players around the board are doing overall. It is important to know how some people might be interacting with these treasures that you're placing down. So very quickly, a general overview. The treasures allow the Paladin to gain gear cards. They allow the skeletons to get access to higher stability, which is the way that they kind of power themselves up. And they allow the spider to gain terror, which is its like eventual win condition. And finally, the warlock is trying to curse and gain control of the treasures and the poltergeists. Overall, you don't need to concern yourself with that, but once you're kind of mid-game, pay attention to how people are reacting to and interacting with your treasures. They're important for 2 reasons. First off, this game is a balancing act of making sure no one wins before you can. Second off, placing a treasure in the right area will likely draw people away from the zone that you're trying to create a seal in. It is a lure for them to leave you alone for a moment.
Get out of here.
Just get out of here.
Get out of here.
And then finally, just the refresh. You're returning unassigned omens to their omen zone.
And remember, only purple. Leave your portents where they are.
So that's really the manor in all essence. It's one of the least complicated ones to learn and probably one of the more unique ones to play. It really becomes an abstract puzzle game when you're deep in it. What are some of the kind of strategies you have when dealing with other players on the board?
So, as the manor, you have one of the most important roles because depending on what you do, you're making it easier for specific factions around you. So you, in particular, are the chief juggler out of all the jugglers that are in this game.
There's a lot of potentiality for the manor to be a kingmaker, and at a sacrifice of their own game.
Yep. So you have to be careful who you're giving the advantage to and when you're giving that advantage to. Because even revealing a specific tile in a crucial moment for the Paladin could give him enough impetus to win it. So you have to really pay attention to the game state, and you have to pay attention to each character very thoroughly.
And where we've encouraged some other players like the spider to talk with and partner with people like the skeleton, your game state will be a little bit more backed off and quiet. You don't want to let them know where you might be drawing your seals. And you also want to keep a really close eye on how far along they are. It won't be as purposeful of a help action. It'll be more an ambient kind of balancing the strings, which makes this role, while it's maybe easier to learn than something like the spider, probably the role that the DM or the lead of this game should play. Understanding other players' roles becomes a little bit more important with the manor, even though for this entire video we've told you,
don't worry about it.
You might want to worry about it.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. I think that kind of covers how the manor plays.
Yeah.
So, if you've made it to this point in the video, thanks for sticking through. I hope this has been informative and helpful and encourage you to get this game to the table maybe a little bit easier. If it has been any of those things or done any of those things, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video around with you and your gaming group. I know it can be a little aggravating to have people always doing a subscriber push, but in all reality, the more eyes we have on us, the more people we have interacting with us, the more it tells publishers like Leader Games that you're enjoying and benefiting from what we do. At the end of the day, our goal is to create content that we would benefit from, that we enjoy making, and that expands the community and helps get games like this played more often. So if we've done that for you, we'd really appreciate you to stick around and maybe engage with us a little bit. Whatever you do, though, remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. We'll see you next time. Thank you.